Death Stranding 2 on the beach is fast approaching its launch, and as its release draws closer, the excitement surrounding it continues to build. Kojima Productions and PlayStation are promising a bevy of improvements over the original game's unique premise that have caught the eye. And as we continue to count down the days to the sequel's release, here we are going to discuss all of that and more. All information in this video is sourced from officially released materials and previously revealed content. Story, returning, and new characters. As is ever the case with Hideo Kojima games, Death Stranding 2 has kept its cards pretty close to its chest where its story is concerned, even with decent amounts of footage we have seen of the game in the lead up to its release. Some details, however, are clear. Set sometime after the event of the first game, Death Stranding 2 will see protagonist Sam Porter Bridges being pulled back into action to continue making crucial deliveries, this time outside of the UCA, in order to stave off humanity's end once again. From BTs to returning antagonists and new ones, expect to face off against a variety of threats once again. Death Stranding 2 is promising a vast and varied cast of characters, and though many are going to be new introductions, more on them in a bit, several of the core cast will be familiar faces. The aforementioned Sam Porter Bridges returns, of course, once again portrayed by Norman Reedus, while Leia Seydoux and Troy Baker's Fragile and Higgs also return for the sequel, as does Nicholas Winding Refn, who provides the likeness for Hartman once again, with Darren Jacobs also returning to perform the character. Lou, the infant who served as Sam's BB throughout Death Stranding 1 before ending the game as his adopted daughter, will also return. A host of new characters are being introduced in Death Stranding 2, many of whom are played by or bear the likeness of well-known celebrities. Elle Fanning plays Tomorrow, while Shioli Kutsuna plays Rainey. Luca Martinelli plays Neil, who seems like a solid Snake-esque covert soldier, while Alistair Duncan plays the new president of the UCA. There's also Deborah Wilson's character, a doctor, as well as Tarman, the resident doctor and captain of the ship DHV Magellan, which will play an important role in Death Stranding 2. Legendary film director George Miller has provided his likeness for Tarman, while Marty Rowan plays him. Meanwhile, the puppet known as Dollman is played by Jonathan Rumi, with a likeness based on Turkish film director Fatih Akin. Maps. As we touched on earlier, Death Stranding 2 on the beach won't be set in the United Cities of America as its predecessor was. No, this time we're moving on to entirely new locations outside of the country and even the continent. It's been confirmed that Death Stranding 2 will feature two open world maps in Mexico and Australia, with the latter serving as the primary setting for the sequel. With two entirely new maps, the game is also promising much greater environmental diversity, which should be exciting to experience. Skippable boss fights. Those who want to focus on the narrative or aren't as skilled at combat can select an option to clear the fight without actually beating the boss, as revealed on the latest Koji 10 radio broadcast. It's available in the game over screen below Continue. When selected, players can view image and text descriptions of the battle before continuing on their merry way. Whether this is only on easy difficulty or available throughout remains to be seen, alongside the impact of unlocking trophies, assuming any require defeating bosses. Appearances by Realworld couriers. Hideo Kojima has confirmed that the Japanese Boca will be getting a proper appearance in the upcoming Death Stranding 2 on the beach. Speaking on his radio show, Kojima had revealed that one of the pre-order bonuses for Death Stranding 2 on the beach will be an exoskeleton dubbed the Boca Skeleton. For context, a Boca is a kind of courier in Japan that specializes in making deliveries to places that are otherwise difficult to reach. This includes places like remote huts and mountains. The equipment used to carry packages by Sam Porter Bridges in Death Stranding is based off of a wooden frame used by a Boca, which is often used to carry supplies to be delivered. Open world details. There's plenty more to talk about where Death Stranding 2's open world is concerned, beyond its new locations and the diversity they are promising. Kojima Productions is also promising an open world experience that will feel much more dynamic than the first game. That will come through not only a new day and night cycle, but also extreme weather mechanics and disasters that players will have to deal with while traversing the world, including forest fires, avalanches, sandstorms, earthquakes, and more. That, of course, will be in addition to other threats like timefall, BTs, and a variety of other enemies scattered throughout the world, both supernatural and otherwise. One of the more interesting additions is a day and night cycle, and though it adds to the overall beauty of exploration, there are some gameplay advantages. For example, sneaking around is easier at night, but less visibility could be an issue for traversal. With a series as focused on carefully navigating terrain as Death Stranding, it introduces some new challenges. But what prompted director Hideo Kojima to even add a day-night cycle when it was missing from the first game? Speaking to IGN, Kojima revealed, quote, "We did this in Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain as well, but I wanted to properly include the passage of time in an open world. Gazing at the sky as the sun rises and sets is something that couldn't be done in the first game. in part due to engine-related reasons, but it's been put into the sequel, end quote. Kojima notes that nighttime scenes were originally far too dark, prompting a lot of lighting changes. Quote, cutscene lighting changes depending on the time of day too. It wasn't easy building a game that could account for that. There are times when I want to use film-like backlighting in specific scenes, but this is a game, not a movie. What's being seen will change based on the player. I'd personally like you to play certain cutscenes at night, but it's fine if you see them at another time of day too, end quote. Fortunately, unlike Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain, you won't have to wait around and smoke to advance time. Instead, players can return to a private room and go to bed. Quote, we also include the option to go to bed and wait for the morning before leaving. This is something we've been sure to include because I imagine there will be players who don't want to travel at night. Metal Gear Solid 5 had a system where you could smoke to advance time, but this game does it in more natural ways, like going back to bed in a private room after waking up once, end quote. Social Strand System. The asynchronous multiplayer system known as the Social Strand system served as a central part of the gameplay loop in the original Death Stranding, and it is, of course, returning in full capacity in the sequel. The Social Strand system will once again see players asynchronously collaborating with each other, leaving behind tools and traversal equipment that can be used and raided by other players, which in turn will help you unlock more and better tools to use. Combat and stealth improvements. Traversal gameplay and Social Strand multiplayer are obviously Death Stranding's bread and butter, but the upcoming sequel is also expanding on some of the first game's more glaring gameplay flaws to, hopefully, deliver a more well-rounded experience. Specifically, combat and stealth have seen significant improvements as per not only Kojima Productions, but also the extensive hands-on previews that have been published for the game by various outlets. That means greater enemy variety, better enemy AI, more weapons, and a greater degree of freedom in how to approach situations. That means stealth has received a glow-up, with the aforementioned enemy AI improvements being paired with a wider and more varied pool of stealth to use in stealth scenarios. The title's official PlayStation page provides a few more details, including how Sam Porter Bridges can use long-range gear alongside the previously confirmed decoy holograms, potentially referencing the BT hologram grenades and silent takedowns. We've seen weapons like assault rifles and bolas launchers, but players will also utilize machine guns, shotguns, and grenade launchers. Different gameplay approaches. Interestingly enough, the difference to choose between different gameplay approaches when faced with roadblocks seems to be one of Death Stranding 2's core gameplay pillars. Speaking with Edge, lead level designer Hiroaki Yoshiki explained that combat, stealth, and traversal will serve as the three key gameplay components, with each providing viable routes through challenges. Yoshiki said, quote, Kojima-san wanted a clearer focus on combat, so we wanted to provide players with a range of approaches to every situation they're faced with. There are three main approaches: stealth, direct combat, or avoiding encounters entirely by navigating rougher terrains and taking the road less traveled. Players can choose which route they want to take, and we ensured all three approaches were viable throughout the game. We then designed the enemy AI to respond to these different player actions, so there are many more responses beyond just giving chase, end quote. Similar to Metal Gear Solid 5. Interestingly, Hideo Kojima himself has likened Death Stranding 2 to his 2015 flawed masterpiece Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain, though that doesn't mean you should go in expecting a hardcore tactical experience that's full of stealth. No, that's more in reference to the game's structure, which, as Kojima explained in an interview with Edge, sees players frequently returning to the ship HMV Magellan, which serves as a hub and base of operations throughout the experience, similar to Mother Base in Metal Gear Solid 5. Progression details. Death Stranding 2 is also looking to add further depth to its gameplay experience with completely new progression mechanics. Dubbed the Automated Porter Assistance System, or APAS, Death Stranding 2's skill tree will see player investing points across three categories, featuring skills and upgrades related to combat, stealth, and what's referred to as a service ship, and essentially dictates your ability to effectively and successfully deliver packages. Meanwhile, in addition to actively unlocking skills through APAS, Death Stranding 2 will also see your attributes passively increasing in the background as you do that activity more during gameplay, adding another layer to the progression. Photo mode. Death Stranding 2 is not only confirmed to feature a photo mode, but perhaps one of the most full-featured photo modes that we've seen in a game, maybe ever. In addition to showing off the game's impressive facial scans, animations, and performance capture, the photo mode will also let players populate frames with different characters, featuring different poses, animations, actions, and high levels of interactivity, rather than simply sticking with static stills and snaps, though you can do that as well if you want. Could be roughly 75 hours long. At anywhere between 40 to 60 hours long, the original Death Stranding was quite a beefy experience, but by the looks of it, its upcoming sequel is going to be an even bigger game. That's based on a Eurogamer preview that said it played 30 hours of Death Stranding 2, which, according to Kojima Productions, is roughly 40% of the game. Quick math would suggest that the upcoming title is then about 75 hours long, or thereabouts, though with optional content taken into account, there's obviously every chance that the number goes even higher. Quality and performance modes. Death Stranding 2 is looking like an absolutely gorgeous game, and as you'd expect, the open-world title will let players choose between different graphics options. Specifically, courtesy of a Game Informer preview, the game will feature two modes, a quality mode that will focus on fidelity at the cost of frame rates, and performance, which will take a small hit where resolution and picture quality are concerned, but will instead deliver consistent 60 FPS gameplay. PS5 Pro Details. Kojima Productions and Sony have confirmed on Death Stranding 2 on the Beach's official product pages that the game will be enhanced for the PlayStation 5 Pro, though exactly how we can expect it to be technically and graphically upgraded hasn't yet been specified. Hopefully performance boosts are incoming, and hopefully that information will be made available sooner rather than later. No DLC plans. Death Stranding 2's launch is around the corner, but when it's done, it doesn't seem like Kojima Productions has any immediate plans to keep working on new content for the game. Speaking on his radio show, Kojima said that there are no plans for post-launch DLC for Death Stranding 2, though he didn't give a concrete no either. He did express pretty strong reluctance at going down the DLC path for the game. Kojima said, quote, "As for DLC, right now there aren't any plans. That kind of thing isn't really the trend anymore, is it? I'm not sure though. Before we used to add stuff post-launch pretty regularly, but now maybe there will be something like that. After the release at the end of June, if any bugs pop up, we'll fix them. We'll keep improving the game. We might even create something that didn't exist at all in the first game. Who knows? I can't say for sure right now," end quote. Also, he has ideas for a sequel, but there are no plans for one. Speaking to VGC, Kojima brought up the idea of using the new plate gates from Death Stranding 2 on the beach, which could potentially allow for games in the Death Stranding universe to take place in other countries and how he could make endless sequels with them. Quote, "If I could use this plate gate concept, I could make endless sequels," end quote, said Kojima. Quote, "I of course don't have any plans to do that, but I already have a concept for another sequel. I am not going to make it myself, but if I passed it on to somebody else, they could probably make it," end quote. So, what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below. And if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. We upload every day and would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.